Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the manga that I've read recently. I have a bunch of manga that I just got, plus the extra packages that will come in eventually, and on top of that, several volumes of manga that I haven't read yet in my collection. So I figured this would be a good way to keep track of what I read in a month, but also a way to motivate me to read all of my unread manga this year. For January, I actually have a bit of a mix of everything from, like I mentioned, the new manga I just got, old manga that I haven't reread in a while, and some manga I received a while ago and that I haven't sat down and read until now. I'll try not to go too into review mode for the series I mentioned in these videos, but if that's something that interests you guys, I'd also love to do separate review videos for any manga that I have in my collection that catches your interest. I do want to give a small spoiler warning that since I'll be going into the plots of the manga that I'll be mentioning and also what's going on in the specific volumes, I don't want to accidentally spoil any of you guys if that's something you guys want to avoid. But I hope you enjoy this video! To start off this month's wrap-up, I have volumes 31 and 32 of Haikyuu by Haruichi Furudate. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of this series before, but if you haven't, essentially it's a sports manga that focuses on the growth of a group of high school volleyball players through the trials and tribulations both through the sport and internally in regards to personal character growth. The main school we follow is Karasuno High School, however, we do get to know the other schools and their respective students too. To be honest, I've already read all of Haikyuu through the Shonen Jump app, but I enjoy the series so much I wanted to have the physical copies too. Currently, the story is in the middle of the Karasuno vs Inarizaki game during the spring tournament. And by middle of, I really do mean middle of. The tensions are at the peak with the teams being neck and neck in terms of points and the character motivations and determination in the current game. There's not too much to say specifically in terms of what's going on in these volumes because it doesn't carry the same weight of reading the game in context, but as I'm sure most people would also agree, I would give these volumes a solid 10 out of 10. Next on my list is an old favorite, the first two volumes of Godchild by the shoujo gothic queen, Kaori Yuki. So Godchild follows Earl Kane Hargreaves and his, I would say, mildly episodic murder crime solving adventures, although there is an underlying plot that involves his father and his mysterious organization. The series is a little older and I don't see too many people talk about it, but I do highly recommend this to anyone who likes the concept of twisted fairy tales. Admittedly, I am a little biased because Kaori Yuki is one of my favorite mangakas, but the storytelling and art style is absolutely beautiful, especially when you compare it to her earlier works, which, don't get me wrong, I still find very aesthetically pleasing, but I think her art style really shines in Godchild. I do want to say, thematically this series, as with other works by Kaori Yuki, does get very dark and there is some blood and mild gore. However, overall, I would still give the first two volumes a solid 10 out of 10. Next is Comey Can't Communicate Volumes 1 and 2. A friend of mine actually recommended this series to me a few years ago, and I enjoyed the first couple of chapters I read, so I figured I'd buy a few volumes during the Right Stuff anime sale, and I'm so glad I did. This series follows the titular character Comey and the ever so mundane Hitohito Tadano, and their quest to not only help Comey become less socially awkward, but also to complete the daunting task of finding 100 friends for Comey. The manga is in a 4-koma episodic style, which I don't usually gravitate towards, but honestly, between this and Wotakoi, I think I'm gonna start picking up some more 4-koma manga. Anyways, like I mentioned earlier, it has been a few years since I last read this, and while I did remember the general plot, I totally forgot about some of the side characters, which, after rediscovering them, I think are hilarious and think they're really great offset to not only Comey but also Tadano. The craziness of the side characters almost highlight how socially awkward Comey is, but also how quote-unquote boring and normal Tadano is. So far, I'd give this series a 10 out of 10, although I have heard that there are some parts of the manga that drags a bit, but I'll see when I get there. The last manga I read this month was Junji Ito's Cat Diary. If you're familiar with Junji Ito, then you're definitely well aware of his art style that borders between whimsical and absolutely terrifying, which complements his usual horror-themed manga. In Cat Diary, it's semi-autobiographical in that it follows him and his misadventures with his wife's cats. It's an odd feeling reading this, what essentially is a comedy manga, with an art style that makes you not really want to read this at night. But it still somehow works. I wouldn't say that you need this to complete your Junji Ito collection, but it's definitely a nice addition. Given what it is, I'd also give this a solid 10 out of 10. And that's it for this month. Thanks for stopping by my very first manga monthly wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of the manga that I mentioned, and comment down below how you felt about them. Till next time!